Tanner. All right, good morning, everyone. We're live. It is Friday. I got Dylan on, and I got Derek, mobile home park investor. It's been a while. So, how you been, Derek?
I've been great, man. I was gonna wear it backwards, but I'm like, I gotta promote, man. I gotta promote.
Oh,
There's no logo on the back of the hat. So,
all right. Well, I never seen that logo before. So, what are we promoting then? What is that?
well, this is just Victory Capital. This is just Victory Capital, my
Okay.
company. This is we just I've never had hats or anything before until the last, I don't know, month or two. And I was like, you know what? I wear all this other shit and like promote for other people. I'm like, I need to promote for myself. So here we are.
Cool. So, it's been a while. Let's kind of figure out what you've been working on. I know you're working on a fund that you're developing. Is this your first one? And maybe how do you get started in building a fund?
Yeah, so this is the first one that I've done. I've typically done like syndications deal by deal, and sometimes maybe it'll be a syndication for like a couple of deals. But I've decided to go the fund route because I just like it better. All the big guys do it, and you go out and raise the money, and then you go buy deals. In this particular fund, we have four seed deals, so it's not like a completely blind fund. So we already have deals under contract that we're going to be closing and putting in the fund. Um, I would tell people if you're looking to start a fund and whatever asset class or whatever you're doing, like you can do that first. And I know some guys that in the mobile home park business, these guys are crazy, man. They never did a syndication. They got in the business and they did a $20 million fund right off the get go. So,
Wow.
um, so
Yeah,
you can do it.
I think that's what we were seeing, like, these past 5 years, right? A lot of people getting in these funds, syndications that haven't done any deals previously, right? So maybe you can remind everyone, like, where your mobile home parks are and, like, how long have you been doing this and how many mobile home parks you're kind of operating right now, I guess.
Yeah, so I've been doing this since 2020. I've got I think we're at 45. We just closed two yesterday, which if we want to talk about that was a crazy nightmare closing period. I've just never experienced anything like that before, but we got it done and got it across the finish line. And I've had, I don't know, maybe 20 of those successfully exited in one way, shape, or form, like by refinance. Actually, I've never sold anything yet. Um, and the first few parks I managed on my own, so I know this business really well, the operations of it. I've made a lot of mistakes, so I'll admit that. So I've learned what not to do, and I know how to operate these things now effectively. And if you want to start a fund, like yeah, you can do it first, but like you need to get a track record first, and whatever that is. Like if you're flipping houses, you're doing Airbnbs or whatever. Like it just helps, having a track record of like, hey, I've done this successfully and I know what I'm doing. Before you do that, because the fund's a little bit different because the investor has to give you money without any properties. Ours is a little bit different because we it's different because we've got deals already under contract, but you know otherwise a lot of funds you don't have deals, so it's like you have to convince the investor of your business model, and if you don't have a track record it's harder to do.
And are you still primarily in Florida, your mobile home parks?
Yes, but we actually we're expanding to Arizona. So I've got some stuff under contract in Arizona. I really love the market out there, and we're looking in Texas now too. So it's just you know, trying to expand to other markets that have kind of the similar demographics and population migration and things as to Florida. And so Texas and Arizona is pretty similar to that. And I really like those markets, especially for this particular asset class.
Dylan, you got any I know you've been watching some of Derek's videos, so I just also want to remind everyone, Derek has a YouTube channel also, and so does Dylan. So if you go back, I'll put their links in the chat. But Dylan, you saw anything interesting on some of Derek's videos?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that really interested me was the ability that you guys had to scale because I over the past year and a half, I've picked up 15 doors with a partner, and we're just starting to do some self-storage stuff too. Like we just did. We're buying like the portable ones just to test it out first. So we just spent like 50, 60 grand on a test on some land that one of my partners has. And I actually have a meeting with the county next week to fix that for zoning, because they were like, hey, you're not supposed to do this. And we're like, well, we already did it. So we got to kind of, fix that now. The problem I've been running into, at least lately, because I switched over just in April from being a person working in marketing to full-time in real estate, and I got my broker's license, is I spent all of my money over the past year and a half, and I'm now at the point where if I want to buy anything else to grow, I have to raise capital. And with a lot of the apartments that I've been looking at, because I've been looking at the 20, 30, 50 unit apartment buildings, for some reason or other, these people want to trade this asset at like 5 and 6 caps when rates are 7s. And that's why I've been looking at self-storage and then some different avenues to be able to grow, because like if rates are 7, I need to be buying an 8 or a 9 cap or a 10 cap preferably. So we have some margin there to actually play with. So I guess, the first thing would be like, what do you look for in a mobile home park that at least gets you interested and like is far from like a cost perspective or like an amount of pads or like ability to expand? Like, what is your start for a buying criteria to like, this is interesting?
Yeah. Hey, first off, I wanted to say something to you. Welcome to commercial real estate. The
Thank
running
you.
out of money thing, like like everybody does. So even like you just want to do bigger deals, right? And then it eventually happens. So don't feel it happens to everybody, by the way. Yeah, I mean, what I look for is I look within 30 minutes of a major MSA. That's like 1 million plus people. So you got your Orlando, Tampa, Dallas, Houston, Austin, Phoenix, Tucson, areas like that, Charlotte. I look for that first, like the location, right? And then I look for, like what is my price per occupied pad and like what is a good deal in that market. So if we take Orlando or Tampa, I know if I can buy something in that area at 50 in the 50s per occupied pad, I need to figure out how to buy it. Now, I'm actually looking at a deal right now. It's 78 units and it fits that criteria. It's in a great location, but the rent very low. So should we buy it? Yes, but it's just going to be a little bit it's going to be a little bit harder because you have to get the rents up to market, which will take, can't do it all at once. And so that's like one of the first things I look for is the location and where it is. And then is the price per occupied pad like a good deal in that market? So that's kind of like you have
Makes sense.
students and I have students and I always tell them it's like you have to understand and know the price per occupied pad in the market to like really understand it and like, hey, is this a good deal or not?
That makes sense. I mean, it's kind of like how in these like tertiary markets around Indianapolis that I'm looking at, like I know if I see something for, provided that there's a growing population in the city, if I can find something for between 60 and 70 a door, I need to figure out how to buy it.
Yeah, same thing, right? Yeah. You have that like that sweet spot where okay, I'm getting a great deal here. We can move on that. And it's like instant when you feel it. You're like, oh, that's a great deal. Let's go. And then the ones that are higher priced, which there's a lot of that out there, the 4 and 5 cap stuff. Now, I will say you can buy some of that stuff if there's enough upside in year one to make sense of it. Because in mobile home parks, it's not going to be easier to buy next year, the year after. Like there's not, if prices were going to take a massive dip, they would have done it in 2023 and 2024, and they didn't. So it's not going to happen next year either, right? Because it's a low supply asset class, low supply, high demand. And the prices just aren't going to go anywhere. It's just, what are interest rates going to do to make it more feasible for people to do transactions? There's just going to be more transactions or less transactions, really. And, that's what it boils down to. And like, I hate to like, you buy this stuff and you're not going to, do that well on it for a while. But again, if you wait till next year, it's not going to be easier to buy it.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
Okay.
Well, and I think with some of the multifamily and stuff like that too, it's a lot of people are just waiting for rates to go back down to get the prices they wanted, because like what I'm offering now is based on the 7% interest rates, but they want like when rates were 5.
Flavio, who's in Grandview, Washington, he's asking, is there room to invest in your syndication? And the second part of his is, he says, Derek, a mobile home park came on the market. I believe it's in his area, but the price per pad is 95K 5 cap. So
Yeah. So first question, yes, there is room to invest in the syndication. You can, you shoot me a message off here or something. I'm happy to chat with you. Yeah, I mean, just depend. The price per pad is 95K at a 5 cap. Did he say where that was? Where that is?
I'm pretty sure it's in his backyard. So Grandview, Washington. But
Yeah, I mean, you just have to run the numbers on that. Stuff in Washington and Oregon is a lot of times pretty expensive, 4 and 5 cap land. So, it doesn't get me that excited,
Now,
well,
do you own some of the actual can't for some reason I can't think of the word right now. The mobile homes on the property, or do you just like to own the lots and then rent out the pads to each of the people?
Yeah, so I don't like to own the homes. So I don't own the homes, but I like to buy them when I own the homes, because then I can convert them
Mhm.
over and I have more control of like who comes in and get good people in. So I like to buy them when I own the homes, but then I convert them over. We don't keep them to where we're owning the homes, because you're essentially running an apartment
Mhm.
complex at that point. And that's not the business I got into. I got into this business to make it because it's very simple, it's very predictable. And people tend to stay there for a long time. It's the cheapest place in town and blah 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 blah. But to answer your question, no, I don't like keeping the trailers,
And
like me
do
owning them.
like when you sell those to people, from what I understand, the process of actually like selling that back to somebody from a mortgage perspective, it's a little bit more difficult for the mobile homes. Do you do like seller financing, or do they go get a mortgage for it, or how does that work?
Yeah, so when we sell the home, so we basically do like a rent to own
Mhm.
option with them. We don't charge them interest. We just give them like a really good price on the house. So maybe a home that we could sell in the market for 15, 20 grand, we may give it to them for 10, especially if it's a good tenant, because banks, Dylan, only value on an appraisal the lot rent.
Mm.
Right. So even if the lot rent in the park is 500, but someone is renting a home for 1,200, they're not going to count that additional $700 in income on an appraisal. So it's kind of weird like that. You're like, well, it's income, but like, why don't they count it? It's just the way it works. And so that's why I like to sell the homes off. And we just, if it's a good tenant, like we just want good people in the park, they're going to pay on time and not cause any trouble or do anything crazy. So we keep them, we don't charge interest or anything, as I said before. So we keep it pretty easy and simple.
Oh, that's sweet. I think it makes sense though. Like you don't want to have to like have a handyman in every single area that you own one of these mobile home parks and everything.
Yeah, it can be a pain. Can be a pain.
I guess my next question would also be, I don't know if you've heard the talks, like the administration's, it's kind of everyone's thinking that HUD or Section 8 is going to be taken away. Do a lot of people in the mobile home park or renters or tenants, are they on Section 8? And do you think that would impact the mobile home park space quite a bit?
No, I mean, there's not really. Not really. I mean, some parks have them, but not really. We've purchased some parks where there's people on Section 8, but it's very few and far between.
Yeah, because a lot of the time the rents for those lots aren't. I say they aren't very much. Like I was talking to somebody in Indy that actually has they actually live in a mobile home park, and I was talking to them about what their rent was, and they said it's like $500 a month, and that includes water and utilities. And I was like, well, it's not crazy at all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it depends on where you are. I mean, some of these places like in Alabama, the lot rent might be $75, like
Wow.
$100. But, in a big city, in a larger city, you're gonna be, 7, 8, $900, which is still like much, much better because I don't know what is rent. I don't know where you are exactly. I think you said
Indy,
where are you at,
Indiana.
Dylan? Oh, so how much is rent there?
So for an apartment, I charge about 1,000. For houses, we have those between 1,800. Well, yeah, like 1,600 to 1,800.
Yeah. 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 So yeah, it's even there, I would say your lot rent's probably about maybe 600 there, 6 or 700. So even then, I mean, it's going to be much cheaper. Um, it doesn't matter.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it makes sense. So how many deals did you do on the mobile home park side before you actually like? Because that's the whole thing that I'm like struggling with a little bit is like I've done some deals, but like, am I at the point where I should go and take other people's money into the projects and buy bigger things?
Yeah, I mean, look, I kind of started out
Hmm.
doing that, so I really don't know anything else. Like in the beginning, I made a mistake in trying to buy stuff just based on like what I could pay, and it actually held me back because I missed deals that I should have bought instead of just figuring it out. Like if you know what you're doing, you're a good guy, like and you think that you can make the deal go right no matter what happens, like the business, then do it. Then do it. I mean, you're not just going to stop buying, right? You don't want to stop buying because if you do in 5 years, you're gonna be like, damn, I should have started raising money. So whenever you start raising money, right, you're gonna wish, man, you're gonna be like, man, I should have done it sooner, because I could have done some of these bigger deals that look, not many people can pay cash for these deals. I mean, I got a couple investors, they're pretty damn liquid and they could do a few, but even eventually they're going to run out of money, right? So I would say that like just go for it,
Hmm.
dude. Go for it. Yeah. Like you get a syndication attorney, you get a fund attorney, like they're going to make sure you've got everything set up correctly. And yeah, you'll be good.
Okay.
Derek Flavio's asking, Derek, do you deal with septics? I heard is one of the biggest big expenses.
Oh, yes. Yes. Funny you ask. Yeah, so they can be a pain in the ass. I'm not gonna lie, because some of these parks were developed in the 50s, 60s, 70s, so the infrastructure is deteriorating. So when we go in and do diligence, we do inspections to see like, hey, we need to know if we're going to have some capex coming up on septic or anything like that, because infrastructure is a massive expense. So we have a $100,000 septic issue that we're dealing with now at one of our properties. Now, granted, we crushed it on this property, but let me just tell you what happened. This is kind of the crazy stuff that happens in mobile home parks. So we had a hurricane come through, and the ground was so saturated that it collapsed one of the septic tanks. So we had to get that tank replaced. Now, after the tank was replaced, literally the septic company was done at like 4 or 5 o'clock. They didn't replace the little fence that was in front of the tank, right? They didn't tell us they weren't doing that or whatever. And that evening, you can't make this up, some guy, I don't know if he was drunk or whatever, runs his truck over into the back field. It's an aerobic system. So it's not like house, tank, house, tank, house, tank. It's a system in the back that's like fenced off. And the guy ran his truck over the drain field, 7,200 square feet of drain field. Boom. We had to fix that. We had to fix the other tank. And yeah, it was a big expense.
Wow.
It was a big expense and a freaking pain in the ass. But like, so I will say this. So when I'm raising money, like I know this and I know this kind of crazy shit can happen. So I raise more capital up front just for things like this. And so we're not completely getting killed. I don't have to go back to the investors and say, hey, we need more money. So we're covered. I don't like spending 100 grand on septic if I don't have to. But now we're going to have a completely new system. It should be fine here moving forward. But that is definitely something you need to watch out for. And I have a due diligence checklist. I believe it's free. I'll give it to you for free, actually, and you can
Sweet.
look at it. It shows you what to look for on that stuff, because you got septics, you got wells, and other private utilities like a wastewater treatment plant. You have to really know what you're looking for and how to operate these things, or they can really they can screw you over. Like, that's just the way it is. But as long as you know what you're looking for and you plan for it, you'll be fine on that.
And what made you choose mobile home parks? Because there's a variety of different assets like that you can get into in commercial. You got apartments, flex space, self storage. Like, why mobile home parks?
Yeah, great question, Dylan. I mean, it was pretty. So I'm a simple
Mhm.
guy. I'm from the country in Virginia, the sticks, like maybe 1,000 people in the town that I grew up with. So I'm simple. And when I first started looking at apartments and like houses, I was like, so my thing, I didn't want to just buy like one house or a duplex. Nothing wrong with that or anything. I just didn't want to do that. I wanted a little bit more scale. And so when I looked at apartments, I mean, I just couldn't, like, the numbers weren't that exciting to
Mhm.
me, you know? And I couldn't think, like, I couldn't really fathom raising money from an investor at this time. Like, it was hard for me to think with. And so mobile home parks I could get for 20 or 30,000 a unit instead of 200. And so the number was a little bit easier for me to like chew on. For 20 units was 400,000, the first deal we bought. Right? 20 units, 425,000. And that was easier, but also the yield was much higher. The returns were better. It was mom and pop owned. You could get more seller financing deals. It was very fragmented. And the supply and demand factor. Like, you can't build any more of these things. It's very hard to do so. So the supply, actually, let me back up. The supply is actually shrinking, because if you're in a big city, some of these every year get redeveloped because they're just not highest and best
Mhm.
use. So there's a dwindling supply. Affordable housing demand is going up. So I like that. And someone can't come build next to me. So, and if someone does, it's a $2,500 a month apartment and it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Like, my people aren't going there anyways. So that's really why.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I wanted to say morning to Philip from Australia. Thanks for tuning in. He's been tuning in recently, but I wasn't sure, so I asked him, do they have mobile home parks in Australia, and he says not many, only ones near the beach for holiday season. And then tuning in. Yeah, he's always asking for a Bitcoin person, so I'm working on. I'm trying to get someone that invests in Bitcoin to come on, but it's doing so well. I think they're busy right now since I think it broke 100K again, right? So, um, but yeah, so I think Derek, let's see if maybe Flavio will reach out to you. I know he probably has some questions, but so not only
Yeah.
raising a fund. I believe you can go to your face. You have like some webinars once in a while, right? Of talking about how to get started in mobile home parks, right?
Yeah, and if you join my Facebook group, it's called Mobile Home Park Investing Pros. I do a live Q&A every Friday. I'll have it directly after this at 12 o'clock. So if you're a part of that group, it's specifically for the Facebook group. I'm on there for 30 to 45 minutes, sometimes an hour. It's an Ask Me Anything mobile home parks. So that's Mobile Home Park Investing Pros on Facebook. You can check that out.
All right. Anything else, Dylan? You want to talk about raising a fund or mobile home parks to Derek or anything?
What would be the minimum size of a property that you would be looking at to like Because from what I understand, the syndication docs and everything like that is pretty expensive. Like I've heard from some people that have done it, like don't do it on, properties under a couple million because it could be like 50 grand to get all your docs in order. Like what is there a threshold that you look at, and what do you usually see it costs to get that stuff put together?
Yeah, I mean, so the fund is a little bit more expensive. I mean, the syndication, like my syndication attorney will just do docs for you for like
Oh,
six
okay.
grand. And it's not like you need different docs for the next deal. You just have a new address and a new LLC, right? So you're not changing the docs,
Hmm.
right? Um, so the next one that the attorney does for you, they they're not going to charge you as much, if anything, to change the name, or you can change the name, right? It's really not that difficult. But if you have some nuances that are different, you're going to want the attorney to look at the new docs. Um, 50 grand, my God.
I don't know. They were saying for like some of the bigger projects, like it may have been the fund side. I like the idea of the permanent capital more than like raising a syndication for like small projects. Ideally, at some point, we get to where, we have a few people that are just like, hey, Dylan, here's like $5 million. I want to put it in your fund. I know you're buying apartment buildings and self storage and stuff like that. Just place the capital and, of course, report to us, but you know, like share the return analytics, pay them quarterly and stuff like that. That's what I want to get to, because I don't like the idea of the turnover a lot of syndicators have, where they focus on like acquisition and disposition and, just turning properties and getting rid of them. If anything, I'd rather get to a point where I just refinance the partners out and then I just own everything outright by myself, you know, if it really came down to that.
Yeah, yeah, and you can do that. I mean, if you really want to scale, I mean, the partners that you start to get, unless you have a bunch of these, like in my experience, like the guys don't like to be refinanced out. Like they like to be partners in it the rest of the way. And I know some guys that do it and they've got capital partners. Yeah, I just want to make 12%. And I'm like, okay, I'd love to have some of those guys. I just pay them 12% and then I refinance them out. That would be cool. But that's not how my funds work.
Hmm.
The partners, they're in the whole time, and they still do really well, and we do really well. And people do that. I just don't know if you can do it at scale. I know you could probably. I don't know what your network is like, but you could do that. The other thing I wanted to mention to you, so in starting the fund, yes, it's about 25 grand for the docs. You're gonna have some other mm, filing fees with the SEC and things like that. So maybe you end up being like 30, and then like fund administration, like it's probably 3,500 bucks a month to do the fund level accounting. But all this is your fund's gonna pay for this, right? You just have to
Hmm.
front the cost, right? And until you get all the capital in and the deals get flowing, then, you know,
Hmm.
so
Yeah, doesn't sound too bad.
no, no.
So if you did do a refinance, would you refinance return capital, but then they retain the same equity ownership in the deal and you guys just continue on from there?
Well, the equity ownership might change because when we do a refinance, I'm capturing the promote, my upside too. So
Hmm.
the percentages may shift a little bit, but the investor equity actually goes up because
Hmm.
I'll refinance, give the investor maybe 75 to almost 100% of their capital back, and
Hmm.
then they're still in the deal moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, because I'm looking at doing this with my apartments now, where we just bought them like in September, and we're in the process of getting a credit line for it. We chose that instead of the refinance, so it didn't push us up to like the 1.2 DSCR, which seems really thin because we're at a 2 right now. And it looks like we put 230 plus about 25 for rehab into the deal, so we're about 257, and we should be getting 260 in a credit line. So it's like 6 months full burr. The property went from, well, full burr, quote unquote. We'll be able to tap the capital to like do other projects with at seven and a
Mm,
half percent, which is going to be stellar. Um,
that's
no,
nice.
Yeah, but I thought it was kind of crazy. That's what really got me to be like, man, I got to do more commercial real estate. This is awesome.
Yeah, yeah. How many like do you have? So I just so the some of the strategies that I've implemented before on refinances is that like I'll buy 10 properties in an area, then go
Mhm.
refinance them all at once and basically put them all in another LLC, right? And then you sort of refinance that it's one entity now. So if you have 10
Mhm.
properties, you refinance them all at once and now they're all in, Dillon Project Fund 1 or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And the banks will give you better terms, sometimes non-recourse debt, which is nice. And
Mhm.
you'll get a better kind of you'll get a better cap rate on the appraisal. So
So, oh,
no,
sorry.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, are you throwing those all under one blanket mortgage, or are you getting separate appraisals and like throwing them under different mortgages, but it all is under the same LLC?
Yeah, good question. So it's separate appraisals. So they go and check out each property, but it's one mortgage. It's one mortgage at that point. But
Gotcha.
you'll still do your property level accounting per property, but
Hmm.
then you'll have like the main entity that you're doing it for too.
No, that makes sense. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not quite at the point where I have 10 properties in one area. We just have one 12-plex. I have a 3-plex, and my partner has like 17 single family homes in
Yeah.
a town next to mine. And we're looking at like what we can move around to start to grow the portfolio. And like the self storage has been the only thing that we can find that has like decent cash on cash, compared to like some of the apartments I've looked at where we're looking at like 6%. And I'm like, yeah, I could put money in bonds and get 4. So I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I understand what you mean. It just depends on like what how much work's involved in that. Like, if there's really not that much work involved in that, then it's like, okay, maybe, right? But if there's a lot of work and you're only going to make 6%, I mean, it's too expensive. You got to get a better deal.
Hmm.
Um, but you can do the roll up strategy with, I don't know, 3 or 4 or even 5 properties and do it that way too.
And is it all, well, I assume you've done it with mostly mobile home parks. So is it all like kind properties that you're rolling up into this instead of like our self-storage facility and our apartments and some single family houses that we all throw under one umbrella?
I mean, you just got to ask the lender. I mean, if you have I always work with mortgage brokers. If you're doing bigger deals, use
Hmm.
a mortgage broker. It'll save you a lot of time and headache, by the way. Just pay them the
Hmm.
1% and be done with it. Um, it's just easier and you can focus on the other shit. But if you talk to the bank, just ask them, be like, hey, I have this storage building and all this other stuff. We want to refinance them and see if they could do kind of a portfolio or roll up strategy.
Gotcha. And how do you find your deals for the mobile home park side? Are you guys like calling owners or brokers?
We're doing everything. We're doing
Okay. Okay.
everything. So I have a team. I have an acquisitions team. We're doing mailers. We're doing cold calls. I have my podcast, so I have good relationships with brokers and other operators. And so, um, I have a buddy. He's an operator. He's trying to sling me one of his parks. He's trying to jam me on the price. But like, um, so I get deals like that too. My buddies are like, "Hey, we want to get rid of this one. You want it, but I'm going to squeeze you on the price." Yeah. So it's always fun negotiating with friends because we,
Hmm.
kind of bust each other's balls at the same time. But to continue to answer your question, like we talk to brokers and wholesalers and really any way that we can find a deal. I got a call about a month ago from a guy in Bradenton. He was watching my podcast. He's like, Derek, great podcast. Um, I'm trying to sell my park.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. Nice.
Yeah. So we're not under contract with this guy yet, but we're working on it. We're working on it.
Yeah.
Did anything come from you and Joel Farrell? Remember he was Strive for 25.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So he had a deal that I've seen that deal before and it was okay, but he had it was in the process of closing, and he was looking for someone to come in because he didn't have a lot of confidence that this thing was going to close. And I didn't hear back from him, so I'm assuming the deal got done.
Oh, okay.
And it was an okay deal. I had looked at it before. It has more RVs than I really like in there. But so even here's a good example of a connection like that. It was like, hey, me getting access to a deal because I knew Mark, and Mark told the guy to reach out to me. And so, like, being active and networking on social media, just crazy shit happens. Like, you get this or this. And so,
Yeah, I guess one thing I always hear, and me being naive, also all the way out here in Hawaii too. So like mobile home parks are not here. So how do you deal with kind of the stigma of mobile home parks or trailer parks in a sense, that stigma that kind of comes with it for people that you're trying to get to invest in your funds?
yeah, so like for investors, like I would say 95% of the investors now have heard and or seen that, like, hey, this is a great investment, and so there is no stigma about it really anymore. I mean, there is, right? But I don't run into that with investors typically. So, um, although I do get like, hey, this park looks a little nasty that you're buying. Well, of course, it's a value add park, right? But we go in and pave the roads, put fencing, lights, paint and skirt the homes, like all this stuff to lift up the value. But some of these parks, they're trailer parks. Like, let's just call them what they are. Like, it's a 1-star trailer park. We make it into a 2.5-star trailer park because it's not going to be. I know you've probably seen these immaculate communities with these brand new homes that are really, really nice. It's a 55 and over park. Like, those aren't my business model, because I would say, if you're looking to buy these things, I wouldn't buy those, because your client base, your customer is like this. When you buy the affordable housing stuff, you have an unlimited demand for it. In those parks, the really big ones and the super, super nice ones, those are the ones that Blackstone's buying. And Apollo and Carlisle, they're buying those. They're paying 4 caps for those. That ain't my business. Like, that's not my business.
It looks like you got a question from Philip about what happens with the people that live in the park. So, what happens with the people that live in the park? Do you squeeze them with rent hikes? I think there's a lot of other ways you can add value, but I mean, that's your question to answer.
Yeah, look, I mean, the mobile home parks are like, they've generally, like, the rents have been low for a long time, and so they need to come up to market. So, because we need to inject capital into the park, like paving the roads, that's not cheap. Painting and skirting the homes, that's not cheap. So we do raise the rents, but in turn, like, the value of that person's house goes up because it's a nicer park, it's a cleaner park. And we get the drug dealers out if they're in there. We get the people that are causing trouble, and so we're really giving them like a better quality of life. But the rents have to go up. I mean, it's just, otherwise, like, why would you even buy the park if you're injecting all this capital in it and making the place a cleaner and safer place to live? Like, if you're not running a charity organization. I mean, I wish we could just give everything away, but unfortunately we can't. But we do raise rents, but we do it responsibly, and we do it in a way, but we're bringing a ton of value. Like, we're not just going and say, hey, this is a shitty park, we're going to keep it shitty and raise the rents to the moon, right? We don't do that. um so we bring, it's a give and take. We add a lot of value while doing that.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I was thinking of like other things, of like, you know, people may look at like the main way to increase value of the property is raising the rents, but like, what about, what if we put more pads in? What if there is a bunch of unused pads? Like, I feel like there's other ways that we can push the value up besides just saying, oh yeah, we're just going to drill everybody on the rent, because like, that's not always the case. Like, there's a lot of other stuff you can do, and like maybe we're marginally increasing it over time and making the place, like you said, a much better community to live in too.
Yeah, and you can do that. You can add homes. You can add homes. It's very difficult to do. It's not easy to do that, Dylan, because you have to,
Mhm.
if you're going to do it right. Some people cowboy it. They don't pull a permit. They bring in homes and they hook them up, right? You know, I've learned my lesson from doing that shit. So we do everything by the book. And because it just makes your life harder. Like, I know if
Yeah,
you own a property, you know, and you have to fix something, you always go through the battle. Hey, should I pull a permit for this? Because Johnny can just come and fix it and be done versus
fix
it
it.
taking 90 days. I see
Yeah.
you guys smiling because you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, that's funny, Mark. But you know, like bringing in those homes and doing it right, pulling the permit and everything, it's a pain in the ass. You have to orchestrate the electrical contractor, the AC contractor, the plumbing contractor, all of that stuff. And then the city has these dumbass, you know, setbacks and things that really don't make sense sometimes because the mobile home park was developed in the 60s. So the setbacks
Mhm.
aren't what they are in the law today. Like they're non-conforming, like they're grandfathered in. And so sometimes you can run into trouble doing that. Now there's people that do a lot of infill and they're very good at it. I just prefer not to do it because I like to go in and there's other ways that you can add value, like you said, other than doing that. Billing back utilities because a lot of times the utilities aren't billed back. So people, like, you drive into the park. I drove into our park one time and people have a big pool filled up with water, which they're not supposed to have. They have the blow up water slide, like, you know, all kinds of stuff. You're like, you're not supposed to have that for insurance purposes, but you know, you get more economical with the water when the people have to pay for their water and sewer, just like everyone else does. Um, and then also with your, if you own the units, converting them to like tenant owned, where the person owns the units, it's less expenses because you're not paying to fix the toilets and stuff.
Flavio has a question. He says, "What is the oldest mobile home park you'll buy?"
Well, I don't really look at the age. I mean, some of the stuff that I've got in Tampa, I mean, was developed in like the early 50s. Like, no joke. So, you know, I'm just looking for a good location. You know, obviously the more recently developed, usually the better the infrastructure, but you're not going to find many of those in a great area that's recently developed because they stopped letting you do that at some point. So most of the parks in the really good locations are older.
And I think you kind of touched on it too. So you're in Florida, so a lot of people also having insurance issues on the residential, commercial side. Is that impacting mobile home parks also?
Yeah, I mean it is. So this past deal that the one we just closed yesterday, which was a wild closing I told you about. Um, so yeah, I mean the insurance is $650 a unit. Like that's high. Like that's high. It's 51 units, 33 grand a year. And that
Wow.
was really because we got wind business interruption insurance. So if hurricane, you know, Mark comes through and rips the park apart, we'll get some business, you know, we'll get some income from that. Now, if we decided not to carry that and we just got general liability and there was a commercial building on this property, it was going to be 10 grand a month, but now it was 33 grand a month or 32 grand, not 10 grand a month, 10 grand a year. And then now it's 32, 33 grand a year just for adding the wind. It took it up, you know, 300% or whatever it was. So it's just, it's crazy. And, you know, that didn't kill the deal. We bought this deal really well. So the deal still worked and it was fine. But, you know, I'm underwriting for that now. I'm underwriting for massive insurance. So if it does come in lower, we're good. But if it comes in higher, we're good. I overestimated the insurance on this, and I was right there on the money about what we ended up getting. So it can be a problem for sure.
Now this might be a little bit complicated to answer, but what is like a cash on cash that you'd usually see from like a mobile home park that you're buying, or like once it's fully optimized, what you guys are looking for? I know there's, everything's a different project, but roughly.
Yeah. So when I'm looking at these deals, like I'm not necessarily looking for instant cash on cash. I'm looking
Mhm.
for like equity multiples in the first, like quickly. So for example, we closed on this park, Willow Oak, the one with the $100,000 septic issue. We bought it for 1.129, seller financing, like 30% down, 5% interest only. So great terms. And this park now, it's probably worth 2.5, and we just bought it in July because we were able to go in and convert the park owned homes to tenant owned really
Mhm.
fast, and that increased the valuation that much. So this thing now, subtract the $100,000 septic issue, it's probably 16 to 17% cash on cash.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's smoking. Like that one's smoking. Another deal that we did in Orlando, same kind of deal, but we're converting the homes now. So I mean, it's making money, like we're breaking even, but like as soon as because we give people a rent concession. If they come in and fix their home, we give them like a couple of months free. So once all the rent concessions kick out, we sell the last 5 homes. That thing's going to be cooking, 14, 15, 16% too. And it's going to be worth more than double what we paid for it. And we bought that in October.
Yeah,
So
that's fantastic.
yeah. So like we'll probably refinance that. Well, actually these last 6 parks that we bought, we'll probably do what I told you about earlier. At the end of this year, we'll go and say, hey, bank, here we go. We have another, I don't know, 15 or $20 million worth of stuff. Let's see what we can do with this.
So Flavio has a question. How do you handle eviction? I guess, is there anything different compared to just regular, single family homes, apartments, or whatnot? But how do you handle it?
Yeah, so I mean, it's just I have an eviction attorney. In the beginning, I tried to handle evictions myself, and it's a pain in the ass. I'm like, we got a couple eviction attorneys now, and um, yeah, we just have them handle it. And in Florida, it just depends on which state you're in and really which county you're in. But they're really, um, they can be handled. They are the only difference in the way that they're handled is that if the person owns their home, you have to give them more days notice. Like instead of a 3-day notice, you have to give them a 5-day notice. There's just like more time added, but it's not that much. I mean, in Florida, it's pretty black and white. If you don't pay your rent, like I don't know what to tell you. Like you're gonna get evicted.
How do they, if they own the home, I'm wondering how one of those evictions work because they have to move that off site. Yeah.
Yeah, so typically when it's a case like that, I try to
Hmm.
go in and do a cash for keys scenario and
Hmm.
say, hey, your home's worth 10 grand. You owe us 2 grand. We'll pay you 8 grand for the home. You won't have an eviction on your record. Let's just, transfer the title and go. Right. You guys have done evictions. Like if you're a person that takes the eviction all the way, you're an asshole. Like, let's just call it what it
Hmm.
is because you get so many chances. And if you're a good landlord, you give that person so many chances to not have that eviction on their record. At least we do.
Hmm.
You just got to be a big asshole if you really last the whole time. Would you guys agree with that? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that
like
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I was explaining this to somebody that I know because they were talking about like times they had received eviction notices in the past, and I was explaining the process of like, well, when I serve you eviction papers, like yes, it is for me to protect me, but you also can now take these eviction papers to the rental assistance places, and they can actually help you pay that back so we can get back to current. And if we want to figure something else out about you moving out, like that's where we can handle that. But that's the primary reason I'm serving this to you on day 5 when you don't pay your rent. And they were like, my landlords in the past have never told me that before. And I was like, well, they must suck then because
yeah.
we're supposed to be here to help you because it's you living here, but it's our business too. And we don't want to make it suck for you to move and find another place if that's what makes more sense for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, like, so I've got like a pretty big operation now, so we have to be we have to watch that so I think the short answer is we can't really give favoritism to people. Like we have to treat everyone the same. Although we do we're trying our best. So like, hey, here's rental assistance. We do the same thing. Like, here are some ways that you can actually go get this figured out, because I understand that people run on the hard times and whatnot. And if people are actually making an effort to stay in communication and whatnot, we'll file the notice a day later or something, like, you know what I mean? Like we at least try to work with them as much as we can and help them as much as we can, because, it's inevitable that like when you're dealing with, lower income, that's going to happen. And if it's not, and they're like, hey, I'm just not going to be able to do it, I got to move to wherever, then we work out a home buying process with them.
Has somebody ever just gone ahead and moved the trailer before, or?
Very few, but some have, yes.
Do you know what that costs? Because it just seems insane to pick that thing up and move it somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, it's expensive. It's not cheap. I mean, a single wide's probably $7,500,
Wow.
and a double wide can be like 15, right? And
so it's more than you can buy it for.
It could be. It definitely could be, for sure.
So Derek, Harrison Trade Better's here. He's in Virginia. I think he's asking, would you buy parks in Virginia?
Yeah, I would, if it's, is he from Virginia? Is that what you said?
He's in Virginia right now.
Okay.
He's living in Virginia.
Okay. Yeah, that's my neck of the woods. I'd love to I'd buy something around Richmond. There's just not that many parks there, and I haven't seen anything that's like, okay, that makes sense. Where I'm from, I mean, there's a couple I might buy there, but you're not going to get that equity multiple on them that I like, and it's just like, okay, why are we doing this kind of thing? So I'd have to get a really, really smoking deal, and yeah, that's what I would do.
To break what you just said down, just to make sure everybody understands that's watching it, whether they know commercial real estate or not, could you explain what an equity multiple is?
Yeah, so that's like, hey, you put $100,000 in a deal, and let's just say you sell the deal, and now, well, let me take that back. So you buy the deal for $1 million, you sell the deal for 2.5 million, you paid cash for the deal, so you put $1 million of equity in. So that's a 2.5x equity multiple, because you sold it for 2.5, right? So that's right, 2.5x on your equity. So however much cash you put in, what that turned into is your equity multiple. And that's why we use debt, because that would increase your equity multiple on a deal like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So essentially, like what I did with my apartments is like a 2 on an equity multiple. Yeah, 2 on an equity multiple, because I put in 257, I got out 260, and so the whole thing together is worth like 500 and something now.
Yeah,
like our equity piece.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, you're like a 2x there. Yeah,
Awesome.
Which is good, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll try to find another one.
Well, Derek, I think you have your webinar, right, coming up soon, or
yeah.
So I know you got to probably bounce soon. So Flavio, if you have the time, maybe go check out Derek on Facebook. Go check out his webinar. Dylan, I don't know if you want to hang around for a little while. I'll be going live at 12:30 also with Joseph Cachapalia from X. He's doing fractional real estate investing now. So he wants to maybe start like a fractional Friday type of thing and kind of discuss what he's doing and show people what he's doing. So he's super into it. He's a broker in San Antonio, but I think he likes kind of he's dabbling with it. I think he's intrigued by that space right now. So he's doing stuff with fractional real estate. But Derek, thanks for coming on. You can hang out. I mean, I don't know if you got to bounce, just bounce.
Yeah, I got to bounce, guys. But
right.
Dylan, it was great to meet you, man. And Mark, as always. I thought about buying Crocs the other week, and I still haven't done it yet, bro.
You sent me that picture. I thought you would have pulled the trigger, man.
You're gonna get it. You're gonna get a picture of my feet and Crocs when I pull
All
the
right.
trigger.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, man. I'll see you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, see you, Dylan.
Bye. No, that was a great interview, Mark.
No, man. Yeah, Derek's a cool guy. It's been a while since I don't know if I've done one on Restream with him. I can't remember. It might have been it's been a while, but yeah, so like Farrell from Strive for 25, I saw him post something a couple months ago about I think he had a client trying to purchase or sell a mobile home park, and he was looking. So I said, hey, so I sent Derek the Instagram post. Hey, Joel's. So I guess they connected, but nothing came of it. But like he said, right? I mean, that's part of what we're doing out here is just networking and coming in connection with different people, and like even like I believe Stan, right? You were on with Stan, and I don't know if you guys
Mhm.
connected after and talking about lending and whatnot. So
Yeah, we need to look at I think we were looking at like a refinance or commercial line of credit or something like that on one of my properties. He has a lady that he sent me the information. I still need to get a hold of her.
yeah, Flavio's trying to make trouble. I think he said last night it was a long night. So a lot of us here. I don't know if anyone they go check out Raging Tomatoes. There was I guess you don't call it a debate. It was a Thursday throwdown.
An 8v1.
Yeah, so they were discussing landlord or overlord, right, or something like that. But yeah, it wasn't what I was expected, but definitely you can
No.
see why maybe people are in the rat race or why people I get it. Some people are down on their luck and people are in bad situations, but you definitely see that mindset where people have that victim mentality and um,
Mm-hmm.
but I think Lumberjack and Dion, I don't know if they're still going live, but they kind of touched on it. Sarah, the host, was great. I mean, she
Yeah, she
definitely
was
was
great.
she was open-minded to things, and I definitely love when she gave kind of she bust her ass and she's doing all this streaming and she does what she has to do. She had whatever 3 or 4 jobs, and you can either sit there and complain about it or you can get out there and just do what you have to do. And yeah, I think that earned my respect. I didn't unsubscribe after that, so we'll see. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think there was a lot of like some people were making some decent points because I hesitate to like side with either side of the party just because there's a lot more nuance in like a lot of these things than that. Um, but I feel like if it was more of a structured conversation, we could have got more accomplished instead of where it seemed like a sparring match between like two of the guys and Mike was just like explaining it like in the most respectful way possible, and it seemed like some of them were blowing up on him, and I was like, man, this is ridiculous.
Oh no, Flavio was messaging me. He said, "How come I blocked someone?" I didn't block anyone, but yeah, I think I messaged Dion during the thing too. I told him, "Oh, your guys' debate was much better, right?" So when Dion kind of prepped Mike for the event, and they had a
Mhm.
great debate on Lumberjacks Live a couple weeks ago. So I think that was way more informative. Last night, like I said, it's more the comment section was very eye opening to me. Uh, back to business. Flavio said, Dylan, what is your next project?
So we are in violation with the county right now for having our storage units on site before we got the variance for it. So I am trying to figure that out with the county. I have the zoning meeting next week, so I've already spoken with the lady there, and she's all cool now. Beforehand, they wanted us to take them off site, which was going to be ridiculously expensive. But I'm just going to pitch them on why we need more storage because we're at like 50% of like what would be considered like an adequate amount of storage for an area. So essentially what, happens there is just like when you have a shortage of housing supply, like prices just get shoved up. So I'm going to pitch them on like why we're at such a bad shortage in storage, and it causes upward pressure on prices, and solving this issue would alleviate like some of the price hikes that some people have seen, because I've had people call me before our facilities even open telling me that some of the people that they're storing stuff with have tried to raise their per unit price like $90, and in some cases that's like as much as it costs for a storage unit for a whole month. So like especially for the starting price. So it's interesting, but yeah, I'm working on getting those storage units approved, and then I've been painting the house. So
Harrison says, yeah, he wants to see Lumberjack debate the Canadian lawyer. Was that no? Who was that? 10th Man, or who was the Canadian lawyer? Was it 10th Man?
yeah, that's who it is. I don't know if he said he's a lawyer. He said he had a legal background, but
Yeah.
then he kept talking about documentaries. So I was like, do we have a background watching documentaries, or are we a paralegal, or like did we just like look at some law books from across the room, or like what's going on here?
I will say they well, I don't know, I know Andy's here. He said he was trying to go back and see how much money they got off of the super chats, but they definitely know how to get money on that side, and I think a lot of people in our community were like, you guys are dropping 30-100 bucks and you guys are complaining about not being able to have money and stuff. So that was funny. But yeah, Andy says you
Yeah.
either want to put your hands out to do the work or continue to hold your hand out to receive. So
Yeah. Well, and I think some of the topics were a little bit like, I thought we were going to have middle ground with people on development and like how the government is in the way of development, and that causes upward pressure on housing prices. And if we can reduce some of these barriers for us to build more affordable housing, like we can actually, facilitate making housing cheaper for people, while still accomplishing our same goals. Because at the end of the day, all rent pricing is what the demand in the community, but also all of our input costs put together. So what does it cost for me to buy it or build it? And then what is the cost to rehab it? And then getting you to live there. So if we can make those, the input costs cheaper, we can make rent cheaper and still make the same amount of money on the properties at the end of the day. And I don't mind doing that. I have apartments that rent for sub 1,000, but that works because I paid a cheaper price per unit for the apartments. Whereas like we have houses that have to rent for $2,000, and I know in some people's markets $2,000 isn't a lot of money for a house, but here people on Facebook really did not like me for listing a house for $2,000. But I went on Zillow, all the houses were listed for $2,000 a month, so I was like, I'm right on par with average.
from my experience, Facebook is the most sensitive people out there on the social media platforms.
Yeah.
But Flavio's asking, Dylan, why diversify now and not continue with multifamily?
It is all based on like where the availability of opportunity is for me right now. So I have been searching for multifamily deals. I'm still looking for a 20 to 30 unit this year. I've just not found anything yet. And we had these 13 acres that one of my partner owns that we could start to put storage units on. And we were looking at like I think our numbers are like I don't know the exact cash on cash, but it's like probably netting about 1,600 a month on 15 units, and it's like 52K all in. So it's something like a 20 or 30% cash on cash. Like I just don't see that in apartments. So in this phase where I'm in of building up the brokerage income and stuff like that, finding these things that cash flow like 20 to 30%, and it's, since we have so much acreage, it's just I can just build more income as I go. So like we put all this on 1 acre and then we can expand to the 2nd acre and so on. It's just more interesting right now to build up that income stream, and then I can continue to buy apartments or use our credit line to flip houses or something like that too. While we wait on some apartments to come around, we're still calling and actively looking for them. It's just not as easy to find in my market. Long way to answer that.
Just tune in. Hey, Invest to Wealth is here also. Everyone got a good night of rest after the throwdown Thursday on Raging Tomato. Dylan, do you look for desired sizes per storage unit, or do you just have a random selection of large and small?
So what we did on this first one is we just picked a bunch of different sizes. I know the 10 by 12s or in the 10 by 10s are really popular. We have 10 by 12s, not 10 by 10s. But those are the most popular size, the 10 by 10, because that should fit a small apartment. But right now we don't know exactly what's going to fit best in our market. So we got some 12 by 20s, 10 by 12s, 5 by 12s, 16 by 12s, just to see what's popular. And then when we go to order our additional units, that's where we're going to, pick whichever one was rented the fastest, and build more of those. I'm thinking it's going to be more of the bigger sizes, like the 12 by 20s and the 10 by 12s. I think I like those more. It's less tenants, more money, less headaches.
All right. Have you been on with Kevin yet? Before
I have
my
not.
friend.
I've talked to Kevin. I called because he gave me his number, and I called him about it. Just asking like what software to use, what size of units he does and stuff like that. And he was saying it's all very market dependent. Well, I think it's Easy Storage Solutions as a software if anybody needs it. But for the unit sizes, he said it's very market dependent. So he just said like test with these 15 that I have, and once we determine which ones are most people want, that's where we can go and build a bunch more.
Harrison said, "Do you have space for boats and RVs as well?"
We do. We already have a variance for that. I would prefer to do more self-storage, but I mean, I think my partner already has like 3 or 4 RVs and trailers parked on his land because it's his land. So if he rents out the land, that's all his income. But if we build more storage units, we all split that in thirds. So there may be a point in time where we all have to refinance into where we own the land with him, just so we can package it up and get like an actual a bank loan on it. Because right now we've been doing everything in all cash, which is very hard to scale, but we'll do it for now.
Yeah, I got to get you on with him then, or even Mike Webb has been on. He's actually been doing it a lot longer than Kevin, but he was on Bigger Pockets a long time ago. But he's one of the first responder financial freedom guys.
Nice.
He did have a health scare a couple months ago, so I think he's taking it easy. But should try to get them on. But Kevin's always busy, man. He's always sick. Every time I met, he's like, "Oh man, I'm getting a cold," and like, man, you should just retire.
Wow.
Yeah, I give him so much shit, but because he's doing well. But he does live in a high cost of living area, so that's part of it. The Bay Area is pretty expensive. Flavio's asking Dylan, there is a market to rent pad for trucks here. They pay $150 per pad. Okay.
I've heard of that. I was actually listening to another commercial real estate operator in Nashville. I can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head, but he has a YouTube channel. You just look up commercial real estate Nashville, and you can find it. It's a bearded guy with 2 sleeve tattoos. But he was talking about a deal like that, and that's interesting. I am trying to make this place look as nice as possible because my objective is to get it to where this churns out like $200,000 a year in net income, and we can refinance it for like 2.5 to 3 million. So I can take that money and go buy some more apartments or something like that. But
is that Aaron Horowitz?
Let me look him up really quick.
I think I might, because Mike guys jump on with him a lot. I think he's a first responder, maybe. I think, because it sounds like the guy. He has the beard and the tattoos. But Andy's saying, I believe you're going to see storage buildings grow to lack of housing. One of the complaints I hear in my area is not enough storage for boats, RVs, and cars.
It is Tyler Cobble. I'll throw his channel in
okay.
the chat.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got to wrap things up. I got to stretch out a little bit before my next live.
Yeah, no worries, man. You're going to be going all day.
Yeah, well, I want to get one in. Joseph wants to do it maybe every other Friday. So I told him, let's just get it started, work out the kinks. I'm not good at all that screen sharing stuff yet. So we'll probably be goofing around because I'm sure he's going to want to show like what properties he's putting money into and like what he looks at on the pro formas on the sites. Because I know he uses a few different sites, but it's almost like... Yeah, it's pretty interesting. He's just kind of I don't know if he's been on Zuber's channel also, but he just sits back. He's like in his recliner. He's like just like in the middle, he's just like, dude, at least like sit up a little bit. I mean, I know I'm not super professional, but he's like just kicking back in his lounger and I'm like, all
Chilling,
right,
no
yeah,
shirt on the
yeah.
live
Well,
stream.
not the no shirt, but yeah, he's fucking hilarious though. But yeah, thanks for everyone tuning in. I'll be back in about 20 minutes or so, and I don't know. I might try to do something tomorrow. We'll see, because Curtis and Ray and John, it's easier for them to do stuff on the weekend, so I might try just do hop on with them. I'm pretty free tomorrow, but yeah, everyone, Dylan, thanks for always jumping on.
Thank you.
Flavio, if you're still there, hopefully you're checking out Derek's webinar right now. But I'll see you folks in about 20 minutes.
All right, I'll be in the comments.
All right, man.